Awesome. Okay, so we're recording, we're live. So welcome again. The hope for our cliff today is to talk a little bit about the Peace Corps program. And so we have returned Peace Corps volunteer Kendall Pritsch. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Who will be speaking about the Peace Corps mission, share their personal experience, and touch on the personal and professional development and advancement gained by Peace Corps service. There will be time to ask questions, discuss, and connect with the Peace Corps like liaison that we have here today, representative. Give me 1 second. Okay. So if working or living abroad has been a dream of yours, this is a great presentation for you all to be at. So we're really excited that y'all are here. So I'm gonna introduce Kendall. I'm just gonna read her bio and then just let her go ahead and get started. So Kendall is a strategic campus recruiter for Peace Corps here at CSU. She is currently in the Impact MBA program. She was a first generation college student and graduate, and her alma mater is Purdue University, where she studies strategic communications and global studies. After her undergraduate studies, she joined the Peace Corps and served as an English teacher in North Macedonia for 2 years before spending a year in sales, joining the Rams family here at CSU. So welcome, Kendall. I'm going to hand it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deanna. I am going to share my screen really quickly, and if you could just let me know that you see it. I always tend to have an issue with this. Can everyone see it? Yes, can you see my?
Looks good.
Okay, perfect.
I think we see your notes section.
Okay, that's what I always have an issue doing. Let me try again.
Usually if you put it in presenter mode and then share your screen, it helps. Is what I found.
Good tip. Thank you.
I know that's kind of confusing.
Okay, give me 1 second then. Oh my goodness, is it still the screen that I'm sharing?
Looks great.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Thank you again, Deanna, for introducing me, and thanks guys for bearing with me while we got that technical difficulty sorted out. Like Deanna said, I'm here to talk to you guys about the Peace Corps. I'm really just giving a brief overview of what the Peace Corps is. It's going to be a lot of information, so don't hesitate to stop me if you guys have any questions along the way. So my name is Kendall Pritsch. I am the Peace Corps Strategic Campus Recruiter here at CSU, a long job title, but really all I do is share the Peace Corps with students at CSU. I served in North Macedonia. It's a country just north of Greece, really teeny tiny geographically. It's only the size of Vermont, so it's very teeny tiny. Like Deanna said, I taught English in a primary school there. That was my primary project, but Peace Corps, they lean heavily on secondary projects. It's an opportunity for volunteers to hone in on the skills they're really interested in and kind of assess the needs of their community on an individual basis. So I did some small share crop farming. I did some beekeeping with a local bee farm, and I worked in the boarding home in my village where my students stayed during the week, and also was a part of Camp Glow, Girls Leading Our World, which I'll talk about more later in the presentation. I left my service fluent in Macedonian, however, with very few opportunities to speak Macedonian here in the States. I have since lost my fluency, though I could probably pick it up quickly. And then Purdue University is my alma mater. So why choose the Peace Corps? The Peace Corps is an incredible opportunity to work in a grassroots, individual driven way. So the projects that you're doing, it's all independent work that you're creating You're hands on the ground, working one-on-one with people in the local community. You get to immerse yourself fully in a new culture, which is just a really incredible experience that challenges you and pushes you out of your comfort zone, so you can grow both personally and professionally. You build relationships that last a lifetime. Personally, I continue to this day to talk to my host mom and my host family and my host community as much as I can. You get to challenge yourself, like I mentioned, in really unexpected ways. Every day is different, so you're constantly learning and growing. You get to develop those, not only your personal skills, but you also get to develop professional skills. So Peace Corps is a job. You get to grow professionally and add a bunch of tools to your toolkit. And then, of course, you're working every day to make a difference, whether it be in a whole community, in a country, or just with certain individuals who you work with. And then you're also someone's window to your culture. So not only are you immersing yourself in a new culture, you're someone else's window to the culture that you have here in the United States. So there are 2 Peace Corps programs. The most talked about and most common program is the Peace Corps Volunteer. Now that's the 2 years of service, and the only qualifications that you need are to be 18 years or older and an American citizen. So that's typically the program that undergrads or just graduated students go to. The other option is a Peace Corps Response Volunteer. Now these are shorter time frame positions where it's just like 3 months to a year. And as a response volunteer, Peace Corps is asking for more technical skills. So these are typically return Peace Corps volunteers or people who have been in their industry working professionally for quite some time. All right, so the program area concentrations. For your primary project, it falls under one of these 6 categories. Now, we talk a lot about education. That was the sector I was in. It's the sector that gets talked about the most because it's the easiest to conceptualize. You know, you're teaching in a school, whether it be science or math or English, you're teaching. But there are 5 other program areas. That's agriculture, youth and development, environment, health, and community economic development. Now, if you ever go onto the Peace Corps website and you want to look through kind of what it means to be a volunteer in one of these program areas, there are a lot of descriptions about each one. And you can even go and look at the programs that are currently open in those sectors. So agriculture might look like a lot of these might look like working with an NGO or an organization that's trying to build awareness or change the practices of their community. So there's a lot of really neat opportunity. And then, like I said before, secondary projects are a cool way for you to match your interests with the community need. So for me, and in any program, you find yourself having downtime, of course, and a great way to fill that downtime is really get your hands dirty with those secondary projects. Peace Corps offers grant opportunities. So if you want to start a secondary project that might require some funding, Peace Corps offers grant opportunities for you. You get training at the beginning of your service you get technical training, language training, and cultural training, but you also get training for grant writing. So Peace Corps definitely aids you in that process. Now, where Peace Corps volunteers served. So this map is from fiscal year 2020 when we unfortunately had to evacuate because of COVID, but these are all the countries that Peace Corps was serving in at that time. As you can see, we were all over the globe. Currently, Peace Corps we just had a keynote address from the CEO, Carol Spahn, today, and she gave us the full list of countries that have met the health and safety guidelines that Peace Corps is requiring of them for COVID. And we have started to open up projects in a lot of Latin American countries and African countries with, I think, one or two here or there in Europe and the Asia region. So benefits during your service. You are a volunteer, but everything is paid for you. So starting with your flight to country, and while you are in service, you get a living stipend that is comparable to the average average living wage of the host country. You get housing. Peace Corps assists you in finding housing, making sure that you have housing. You get medical and dental coverage. There are student loan deferment and cancellation plans that are assessed on a one-by-one basis. You do get vacation time, 2 days a month that roll over. And of course, you get those career skills and training that I mentioned before. So benefits after service. After your service, you get a transition fund. It's approximately $10,000. There are a lot of graduate school benefits. So Coverdell is a fellowship program that a lot of universities and master's programs partner with to aid with tuition. That's actually why I'm here at CSU. I'm in a program that partners with the Paul D. Coverdell Fellows Program. So part of my tuition was paid for that. And as a return Peace Corps volunteer, you get access to that for life. So even if after your service, you don't want to go straight to graduate school, but maybe you're mid-career and you decide that you want to do a career change and you'd like to go back to school, Peace Corps still has that opportunity for you. You get a vast professional network. So as soon as you return from service, you are just thrown into all of these return Peace Corps volunteer communities. So not only are they professional networks, but they're also personal networks. Peace Corps DC also will assist you with career services and other networking as well. You do get federal employment advantages, which includes non-competitive eligibility, which basically is just a foot in the door for government jobs. So if you are looking to get into a government position as a returned Peace Corps volunteer, you do get a bit of a foot in the door there for those government jobs. Also, I mentioned public service loan forgiveness. That's addressed by a case-by-case basis. And then you get access to affordable health insurance, which you guys are not worried about yet, but you will be. I'm going to pause here really quickly. I think that there might have been some questions in the chat.
Yeah, folks were just wondering about where to access the recording after, so I just included some information, but I also agree. I think this is like a good check-in point on some of the things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I know we didn't do this like when we started, but like, do folks have like any like initial questions regarding like the benefits, the areas that Kendall talked about when joining Peace Corps? What is, and then if folks don't have questions, maybe like what is something, and I can make a note just so that we can make sure we talk about it at some point during this presentation. What are some things that folks are hoping to learn about Peace Corps today during this presentation? Okay, so just still thinking about it. Kendall, is there anything that you want to add?
I was going to just really quickly open a poll. So that's the brief overview that I was going to give of the Peace Corps was that, and then I was just going to share my personal experience next. But I'm going to open a poll and then I'll answer the question that just went into the chat.
Mm-hmm. Do you have access to the poll, Kendall? Okay, great.
I do, yes. Okay, so go ahead and answer the poll. Which sectors would you guys be interested in after hearing me talk just really briefly about them? Okay, perfect. Awesome. You guys are like all across the board, which is perfect. And it said that everybody participated in it. So the health sector is huge, especially right now. We're really diving into that for COVID relief, which is really cool. But then also a lot of education goes into the health sector as well, not in schools, but educating communities and countries about proper health and safety standards, which is really, really cool. Environment, that's also really cool. Today, during the keynote address that the CEO of Peace Corps gave, they talked about the new strategic plan for Peace Corps, which is not official until the presidential budget is approved, but they are placing a huge emphasis on addressing climate change within countries, which is awesome because we're hearing a lot of talk, a lot of companies, a lot of business, a lot of countries are really starting to take that into consideration. So we'll be seeing a lot more environmental programs pop up for sure. Cool. And then I got, okay, a couple of questions in the chat. What are some action steps to lead up to the application process? Perfect. So that's an awesome question. So let me see. I'm going to see if I can share actually a little pamphlet. There's kind of, we have like a little step-by-step thing graphic for that. But what I would recommend first, if you're interested in the Peace Corps, is just going on to the website. Just go onto the website and start clicking through it. If you go to the website, it can look really daunting. There's a lot of things on it. But if you go to apply to be a volunteer, you can browse open positions and just look through those and see what kind of projects you're interested in and do your research. I think researching and coming to info sessions like this is the best first step for that. So I found that little graphic. I'm going to share it with you guys. Okay, so first browse, like I said, and then second is apply. So we actually, we recommend that if you're interested in the Peace Corps and you think it's right for you and you've browsed and done your research, then apply, get your application in. It can take 9 to 12 months from application till leaving for Peace Corps. So we always advise that you apply early. After application, you fill out a health history form. Now that just helps Peace Corps assess your needs. They really want to take into consideration how best we can support you and your health. So they're going to assess your needs to make sure that you're placed in a country that can support you. Then if chosen, you go through an interview process. It's always been virtual, so great, we're virtual, we're all used to it now as well. So you'll have an interview, and then if selected, if accepted, you'll get an invitation to serve. Now those first 5 steps, those all happen, I shouldn't say quickly, but those are kind of like the first portion of it. The first step, of course, takes however long you want it to, but 2 through 5, those are like the first bulk of it. And then medical and legal clearance, that can be a little bit time consuming. So there you're working one-on-one with a Peace Corps nurse who is helping you get all the documentation and records that you need in for medical and legal clearance. And then you go through onboarding. And so you get to meet your cohort that's going to go to your country with you. And you'll also go through other little steps and small trainings before you leave, and then departure happens. So that's kind of the application process. I know that was a little bit more than what you asked for. Did that answer your question well enough? Perfect. Are DACA students able to be part of this opportunity? Great question. So it would be after So it would, unfortunately, you have to be, the two only requirements are that you are 18 years old and that you are a US citizen. So as long as you meet those two requirements after graduation or even before graduation, you can participate in the Peace Corps. If you don't have a degree, then usually Peace Corps, the projects will require that you have 5 years of working experience. So a bachelor's degree usually makes you competitive. Great questions. Okay, anything else before I share a little bit about my service? All right, perfect. Keep asking questions in the chat box as we go along. I'm going to share a little bit about my service now. So, all right, I was in a school teaching in a very rural village. There were only 50 students in my school, grades 1 through 9, and most of them didn't even live in my village. It was a really small farming community. But that's kind of what we always talk about are the primary projects. So I wanted to speak a little bit more about my secondary projects. So Camp Glow, or Girls Leading Our World, was one of the biggest highlights of my service. I was on the leadership board for the camp. My position was called head counselor. So I actually worked on this throughout my entire service, not just the week of camp, which was really, really cool. So what GLOW is, it's a camp, it's an international camp that is started by Return Peace Corps volunteers in their countries, or not Return Peace Corps volunteers, Peace Corps volunteers in their countries. And they partner with a local organization and they get host country nationals involved in running the operation with us so that hopefully when we leave, it can continue to operate. But it's a week-long adventure with high school aged girls, just giving them leadership opportunities, teaching them how to share their voices and how to make impacts in their communities, giving them a platform to talk and a platform to grow. It was really, really cool. In North Macedonia, ethnically, it's very divided between ethnic Albanians and ethnic Macedonians. There's a lot of other cultures there, but those two are the majority of the ethnic groups. And so this was a really cool opportunity because the country itself is very divided and very segregated. We had women from all ethnicities at camp together, spending time together in ways that they wouldn't naturally because of how segregated the country is naturally. So it was really, really cool. Like I said, I was the head counselor, so I got to lead 12 Macedonian women and share with them how to be counselors. They were the camp counselors, and they were previous GLOW campers, and so they got to share their experience and their learnings from Camp GLOW when they were campers with a new group of campers. So all of our camp counselors were Macedonian women, and we also had counselors in training who worked with them, and we had camper groups of 8 to 10, and yeah, it was just really, really incredible. So that was a big highlight of my service, just being able to work with the ladies in that way. And there's also a counterpart organization to this called YMLP, and that's Young Man's Leadership Project. So that's another international camp that Peace Corps volunteers start within their countries. And it's basically the same thing that GLOW is, except for young men. So for high school aged men, and showing them how to share their leadership skills. All right, so that was I know I babbled a little bit, and I don't think I did a great job explaining. So does anybody have any questions about GLOW or what YMLP is? Because I could talk about those forever. Okay, perfect. I'm going to then talk about my last secondary project kind of group. And that was just about my farming experience and my beekeeping experience. My host mom, that's a picture of me and my host mom in the top left-hand corner. We're braiding her sweet onions, and she had 4 plots of land. Her husband had passed a few years before, so she had a lot of land to manage and not a lot of hands to do it most days. On the weekends, her son-in-law and daughter would come to the village pretty frequently, most weekends, and help with the lands. But she and I really got our hands dirty, and I learned a lot about small share crop farming. I'm from Indiana, and I grew up around farmers and grew up in the country, but never really identified as a farm girl or a farmer myself. So it was really cool to learn that and have that experience in a completely new way. We also had a vineyard. So in the top right-hand corner, that's our little vineyard. We would harvest grapes for making wine and a traditional drink called rakia. And it's basically just fermented grapes. It tastes like fire. It's basically rubbing alcohol. But my host mom we would harvest those, and she produced wine and rakia to sell not only to the other local villagers, but she sold it in the town nearest to us as well. And that's how she really made her money as she was in retirement. And then the beekeeping happened. It was actually really cool. So becoming a part of the community is a huge thing for Peace Corps. And really that cultural training that you get in your first 3 months of service is a way to really help guide you through your service. So with that cultural and language training, I was able to really make connections in my very small village very quickly. My best friend was my host mom and her best friend, who are both 65 and 70 years old. And so those were my 2 best friends throughout my service. But I talked to them a lot, and I was able to talk to them a lot. And through that, I shared, my host mom used to make fun of me for how much I loved to eat honey. And I shared with her how much I thought bees, how interesting I thought bees were, and how I would love to learn about beekeeping and things like that. And one day, her son-in-law's cousins, best friends, I'm not sure the relationship, stopped by our house in the village. And my host mom said, "Oh, hey, he's a beekeeper." And she looked at him and she said, this is my American. She likes bees. Take her with you. And I went to their bee farm that was 10 minutes up the road from our house. And I went just once with him in the beginning, and I was very overwhelmed. He spoke really fast and in a dialect I did not understand necessarily. But that became a weekly thing where he'd stop by my house and pick me up and we would go. And so I learned about beekeeping and got to help him with his operations, got to learn a new dialect because of that. And that picture in the bottom left underneath my host mom and I is how they collect their bees. So they've carved out those little nooks in the side of the mountain for the bees to naturally hive in. And when they want to fill new boxes or find new queens, they go up to those hives, and with that cone, they collect the bees in the cone and walk them down from the mountain and put them in the hive boxes to make sure, or to find the queen. And they hope that a queen is already in there and that the bees will take to the hive boxes and produce honey. So it was a really, really cool and enriching experience. And then that's okay. I thought I had another slide of pictures, but I don't apparently. So this is just my information. I'm here. You guys can schedule appointments with me through Navigate. It's the same system you use when you're scheduling advising appointments. I operate out of the Office of International Programs. So you can, when you go on to Navigate, it's like you're scheduling a study abroad advising appointment, but you just choose Peace Corps advising. Or you can email me at peacecorps@colostate.edu. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Kendall. Just want to give some time for folks to like ask any questions. I know I have like some prompting questions that I think like other students in the past when we've had this presentation have asked. So I can like just prompt some of those things. And if folks want to unmute themselves and ask any, that'd be great. I think one of the biggest questions that we had in like a previous presentation around this was like, do you get to pick like where you go and like how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are different options, and the application, how you applied to projects, it changes. So it's a little bit different from when I applied back in 2017, which is not that long ago. But right now, because of COVID, there are not any exact departure dates. There are hopeful departure dates, but with the programs, if there's one program that you're really, really stoked about, and that's the program that you want to do, that's the project that you want to do, you can apply directly to that program. And within that application, if you think that you're really stoked about that project, but maybe you're okay being a volunteer in another project or in another country as well, you can list your preference within the application. Your other option for applying is to serve where you're needed most. And if you apply to serve where you're needed most, you also get to list your preferences there. So maybe you're thinking, I'm okay doing a number of these projects, but I either want to be in the agriculture or the environmental sector. So you can apply serve where you're needed most and list a preference as being within one of those two sectors. Same with if you have geographical preferences or, well, yes, geographical or project preferences.
Thanks, Kendall. Any questions from folks who are here today in regards to just like the process or like how to continue learning about Peace Corps or yeah, just the experience itself like in country? Have folks previously heard about Peace Corps before coming today? Like a thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Are folks thinking of like potentially doing this after graduation or like going into the field for a little bit and then coming back into Peace Corps? So like tell us a little bit more about like why you're interested in Peace Corps, like why you're here today. Jackie, I saw you put your like a thumb up. I would love to hear from folks. Not to call on folks, but
no, it's fine. I mean, I've definitely heard of Peace Corps. I'm not quite the demographic, but something I was wondering about, like, I don't know if you know me at all, but I'm an optometrist, and for like the health part, I was wondering if like you guys work with like Doctors Without Borders and stuff like that.
Yeah, great question. We don't work with Doctors Without Borders, but so the Peace Corps response program, they do a lot. They want a lot more of those technical skills and more industry professionals. So that's kind of, the response programs are also a lot around health, but the typical Peace Corps volunteer health programs, those projects are a little bit more broad and they don't require a lot of industry experience or the technical experience. I mean, that obviously makes you a very competitive applicant if you do apply. But yes, mostly Peace Corps response is where the really technical and work experience comes in.
thanks, Jackie, for sharing. For anyone else who's here, any like last questions for Kendall before we close out?
I did want to say Carolina mentioned in the chat that she hopes to enter the workforce and eventually join the Peace Corps. I think that's really awesome. there's a lot of value in doing a Peace Corps volunteer opportunity mid-career. There's a lot of value from the Peace Corps standpoint, and people who choose to be a volunteer mid-career. Those skills are really awesome. I think that sometimes it can be daunting in different ways for people who are just post-grad or mid-career, and that's a long time. But it was really enriching in my service, having people who were mid-career and even retired when they went into the Peace Corps. They were really awesome ways for me to learn and grow my skills as well. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I also know, like, folks, in my personal experience, I haven't done Peace Corps, but I have friends who've done it like right after undergrad, after graduate school even, and used, I'm assuming that the money that you talked about, like the $10,000 that you can use for like graduate school, you can also use for like your loans, right?
Yeah, so actually the $10,000 that you get is just for you personally. So you just get it. But as a return Peace Corps volunteer, you have access to the Coverdell Fellowship Program, which that is different. It's a partnership with other university programs. So here at Colorado State, there are 2 graduate programs that partner with Coverdell, and Coverdell offers to cover through the partnership with the programs here. I think it's like 50% off tuition here, but some programs it'll completely cover your tuition. Some programs it covers a little bit less, but maybe it'll give you living stipends. But that $10,000 you get after finishing your service, that's just for you personally.
That's awesome.
I have a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Because when I was a student, I had no idea what I wanted to do with life. And so I don't know if that's how any of you guys feel. I kind of fell into optometry, but I guess my question for you is, when you joined the Peace Corps, did you know what you wanted to do? Because obviously this is a very like, oh, well, I did Peace Corps, so this is not what I want to do. But I also have friends who are like, oh, I want to help guide other students. So did it guide you into this path, or did you do like a whole 180? What were you planning on doing before Peace Corps, or were you planning on anything and you just needed it to like try to figure life out?
Great question. I think that I was more towards the latter, just trying to figure life out. I had a lot of volunteers who I served with who were really gung-ho about getting into a federal position, and they they had done some work in an industry after graduation and wanted to utilize Peace Corps as a volunteer experience, but also to leverage them in federal jobs. I thought that was really cool. Not what I wanted to do. I struggled through all of my undergraduate studies knowing really what I wanted to do. I knew that I enjoyed working with people and I enjoyed helping people, and I was innately curious. I started my undergraduate studies as a biology pre-med major and quickly decided that being a doctor was not what I wanted to do. So I transitioned from that into education and quickly decided that being in formal education was not what I wanted to do here. So then I transitioned into PR and communications, thinking that that was a degree that was broad enough that I might find something. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. I did a study abroad that was a service-based study abroad in my undergraduate studies, where I went to Tanzania, and the program was run by a return Peace Corps volunteer, and she was super inspirational, and she ran the study abroad with a lot of the mission of Peace Corps in mind. So we were working in local schools. We were living in a really rural village right on the coast, and we did a week of service projects after we were in the school for 5 weeks. So it was that that was the first time that I had ever thought about being in the Peace Corps, and that was my junior year of undergrad. So I think when I went into my senior year, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I said, okay, let's be a Peace Corps volunteer.
Thanks, Jackie, for the question. Thanks, Kendall.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie.
Any final questions before we close out, or comments that folks want to share? Okay. I'm going to go ahead for students who are here. Just want to remind folks to complete the evaluation form to ensure that you're receiving the credit for being here. So thanks again for being here. You have Kendall's contact information. Kendall, did you go ahead and post it in the chat?
Yeah, I can. Mm-hmm.
And then I can also include it in like our recording information. So just as a reminder, we are posting this recording on our Thrive website. At the bottom of the page is our pre-recorded list. We already have a few there, but this one will be available for you to reference later on. And just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Kendall, for presenting today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. And if anyone has